time with us this afternoon. I am Kim Master-Martino, and I work in professional services here at Pearson. I'm going to be the main facilitator here with you this afternoon. And we have Miranda Coos that is going to be monitoring the chat as we work through. We tend to trade off for these things, and she gets to watch what you're saying and doing, because sometimes it's hard to monitor both at the same time. So Miranda, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Miranda. I am coming to you live from my living room in Toronto, and I am a math consultant with Pearson, and I will be monitoring the chat today, and I am a teacher on secondment from Toronto Catholic. And yeah, if you have any questions, please feel free at any point to put the questions in the chat, and either Kim will address them or I'll address them in the chat pod. So just a quick reminder that everyone should have their blue button on all panelists and attendees. For some reason, the default is just all panelists, and if it's not set to all panelists and attendees, then everyone can't see your questions and they might be having the same ones. So I'm going to turn my video off now, and Kim will take it away.
Great, and we have Patty on the line. And Patty, you want to say hi or introduce yourself?
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's Patty Henderson here. I am the Math Marketing Manager at Pearson, and I'm coming to you live also from my living room in the Distillery District in Toronto. And I'm so glad that you guys took part of your day to visit with us today.
Thanks. And we also have some of our account execs on the line with us today, and these are the people that you see face to face, traveling all over Canada, helping you get the resources you need. So thank you to those that are on the line also. So I'm Kim, and I've been working here at Pearson maybe about a year now. Recently I've come from working with our Ministry of Education here in Ontario. And prior to that, I was a consultant, a math consultant out of Durham Catholic, and prior to that, a literacy consultant out of Durham Catholic. So I had a lot of years in education, and I'm basically doing the same thing. I'm supporting professional learning with math at Pearson. I just work with a different home team, but I'm out working with a lot of my same colleagues I've worked with for years. So if any of you are on the line, hello, and hello to my new friends. So we will be here together until 4:45. Sometimes the internet does not cooperate with us, especially with so many people using it. So if for some reason the audio or the visual isn't working well, just pop out and log back in, and often that solves the problem. And we are recording this, so you will receive a recording of the full webinar. So I'm actually going to minimize myself here so that you can see the full slide, and we'll just begin. So we really want to hear from you. We want to hear your thoughts and questions in the chats as we go, so that we can have a great conversation together. That, you know, on this line are, Miranda, how many participants are on here right now?
Currently, we have 26.
Okay, so we have 26 plus a few of us educators here. There's lots of great minds. So yes, we have access to these resources that we want you to be most efficient with, and I'm sure that you have either started using them and love them, or will learn to love. You will love them. But we want to hear from you too, because you know you have a wealth of experience to share with your colleagues, and hopefully make life easier for all of us. So let's start with the first thing is, do you see any opportunities for addition and subtraction in this picture? And just type yes or no in the chat pod, and then that way we know you know how to use the chat pod. So do you see opportunities? Addition and subtraction, yes or no?
Oh, we see lots and lots and lots of yeses all flowing in. So I think we got it.
27 of them?
Almost. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So now the next question becomes, what addition and subtraction questions did you see right off the bat? And if you have one that comes top of mind, just type it in the chat pod.
Oh, we have a situation with the mats, or the total number of animals. How many animals? Bowls. Are there enough bowls for dogs? We see some repeated addition. Amazing.
Wow.
Thanks, guys.
So many different situations. So a lot of these things, like how many carpets altogether, how many little dogs, or how many more little dogs than big dogs, or how many dogs out there. You know, it might be they look at the ones to the left and right. This is Dan that's in the middle. The book is called Dan's Doggy Daycare. Or it might be small dogs and big dogs, or it might be 8+1, the dogs with and without a ball. So many opportunities for addition and subtraction. And so what we're going to do today is walk through a section of the learning progression and bring to life some of that progression of learning and accumulation of being able to be fluent with numbers to 20. And then we'll dive into what these resources look like on Mathology.ca and really talk about today's world and what you can actually use really tomorrow and to bring this learning to light for your students and for your families. And so we are focusing on the learning progression, and this learning progression is a step-by-step look at the stages of knowledge and skill that a learner goes through. And the learning progression we're looking at today is kindergarten to grade 3. And it was developed by Lynn McGarvey out of University of Alberta, and then vetted and viewed and reviewed by consultants and teachers and educators across Canada. And so when we look at the learning progression, it's made up of 13 big ideas. And today we're going to look at this big idea about quantities and numbers can be added and subtracted to determine how many or how much. And when we look at the two conceptual threads, one is developing conceptual meaning, and the other is developing fluency of addition and subtraction. And we know that one doesn't come before the other, that they are really totally embedded right from the time that our earliest learners come to kindergarten and all the way up. And we know that this is important because addition and subtraction capitalize on the base 10 number system to make that computation more and more efficient than just simply counting all the time. And so we're going to follow this thread from the left, where it starts in kindergarten, and all the way up to grade 3, and take a look at what types of activities and supports help students move through this learning progression. So let's take a look at a warm cozy nest. So this is one of the kindergarten little books. And at the end, I'll show you where you can have access to all these resources so that you can use them tomorrow. So again, in the chat pod, do you see an addition situation?
Oh, definitely. We've got lots of yeses coming in.
And you might see the same one I'm thinking of, but you might see a different one too. And so we're thinking about, you know, how might something like 5 frames help our young students become really fluent with using these numbers? You know, did they see that there was 3 birds in the nest and 1 bird came along? And so they can count that and say, well, that's 4. Or they might have thought about that this was 3 birds plus 1 bird is 4 birds. Or they might have put them on there and thought, well, I know that that space makes 5 and 1 less than 5 is 4. So they can be thinking about it in a lot of different ways so that they really become fluent with the idea of adding and subtracting within 5 and what 1 more and 1 less actually mean. And so using some of the line masters that are linked with this book help support the differentiated learning. So let's just take a quick look at some of these line masters. And if an idea pops into your head of how you might use these, just pop it over in the chat pod when you see it. So I'm going to start on the right and actually go to the left. We're looking at a 5-frame sheet, which, you know, it can be printed out or it can just be duplicated with pen and paper. So there could be lots of different ways of using that with the book, or there's the number cards that could be used in place of the birds and when they fly in and when they fly out. So the book starts with one bird in the nest, and then another one comes and another one comes. And I'll leave the surprise at the end. So you have to go look at the book to find out what actually happens. And then there's like a little recording sheet where students can take anything that they have. They can take little stones, they can take little sticks and pretend that they're birds and move them in and out of the nest and show different representations and then make them permanent by drawing little birds or little dots. So lots of different ways to use these line masters as is or in adapting them in today's way we're working with our students. So let's take a look at another kindergarten book. And so this is Dan's Doggy Daycare. So there's Dan there. It was one of the pictures we saw at the beginning. And when you look at the picture, what addition or subtraction equations to 10 do you see? And whatever first one that you see, if you can pop that in the chat pod, the addition and subtraction equations to 10 that you see.
So we've got 5 plus 2, 5 plus 2 plus 3. We've got 10 minus 3. We've even got a problem. How many empty chairs are left? Number of chairs and dogs versus how many, subtract the empty chairs. Or 3 plus 4. We've got lots coming in.
So many different situations, and we can see that all these different situations really provide opportunities for children to do different types of thinking. So they might add on to 5. They might see there's 5 there, 6, 7. So they have the opportunity to practice adding on. They might see that there's 10 chairs and they have to take away some in order to figure out how many chairs are actually left. Or another one, I'm not sure if we actually saw this one there. There's 10 chairs. They take away the 2 that are being filled on one side, and then they take away the 5 on the other side. So another opportunity just to really work with these numbers. Or the idea of, well, there's 7 dogs, and how many more dogs would we need to fill the chairs? So that helps them think about some other different types of situations. So just even one picture like this from the book can provide so many opportunities for children to fluently add and subtract with quantities to number to 10. Some might be able to do it with their fingers, some might need things on their table, and some, as they start understanding, what actually makes 10, sometimes they move to that idea of mental math and they don't need other things to actually work through it. And so let's take a look now at some of they call it line masters, but I always call them learning opportunities. And just take a look as I describe them and pick one that you think, I'm wondering what students, this is actually a kindergarten book, but again, they can be used in another grade or with students that are working to 10. How might this be able to be used with students in today's teaching world? So as I describe them, something might pop into your head of how you might use that, and just put that into the chat pod. So we've got a 10 frame. So we're thinking about the dogs, and we've got a 10 frame. We've got a page that shows kind of an indoor playroom and an outdoor playroom. There's a story template. There are so many dogs, there are so many balls, and there's some making 10 problems that are there that have to do with the dogs and the bowls and the bones. And when we think about where our students are in their ability to work through adding and subtracting to 10, there might be some students that really need support in kind of acting out the situation and really modeling that. And so they might be better off using the inside outside recording sheet. Some students might be ready to model that with manipulatives and use the 10 frame as a support. And other students might be ready to really think about situations and what those situations and the result of those situations are. And so in today's world of our students, different students might need different things. They're all developing fluency to 10, but they have different supports and different needs. And these type of line masters provide opportunities for that. And when we think about focus on math and literacy, yes, the story template is a math thinking, but yet they're also really thinking of a story idea also, and that literacy aspect of reading and writing come into play here. And all these resources in the little books, kindergarten to grade 3, are available in French, and in Mathology, they are available currently in grade 1. In September, they will be ready in grade 2. And so all the math little books, they have been adapted for French, not translated. So some of the characters in English names are different in French. Some of the situations are slightly different for that reason. And so kindergarten and grade 1 currently are available in Mathology. So let's take a look and go further along that line of developing fluency. And we're going to take a look at an activity. So this is an activity card that comes in print, but it's also in Mathology.ca. And we're going to take a look at how children can build complements of 10. So the way that this activity goes is it's 2 children. They're built technically for classroom instruction. But as I describe it, think about how you might actually be able to use in however you are working with your students right now. So right now, the game goes like this. There's a little seed cards on the bottom there that a student picks a card. So let's say they pick 4. In the 10 garden, they place a 4 as a label for they are planting 4. And their partner has to think, what is the complement in order to get to 10? So they might have 10 frames, they might have counters, they might have other things to help them, and that partner puts 6. And so now it's switched where the second player picks a card, puts it in one of the garden sides, and then the partner tries to figure out what is the complement. And they continue that way until their garden is full. So in today's virtual world, is there a way that you might use this with your students, or that you might adapt this piece of instruction to suit someone? This is a grade 2, someone in a grade 2, or if it pertains to you, it might be helpful for a grade 1, or it might be helpful for a grade 3.
So we see some notes that might be really good support for EAs that are working with students in the classroom. And then when we're thinking about reusing this in a home situation, maybe the 10 frame, even from Dan's Doggy Daycare, could be helpful, or 10 counters, which could be anything, pasta, some dried beans, some toys. And then you could be working on either a whiteboard or a piece of paper.
So there's so many different ways to adapt it. The idea is here, the cards are here, the line masters are here, and then you know your students best and how best to support them. And so this is when they move fluently to add and subtract with quantities to 10. And they're really using that idea of recalling complements to 10, because the known is always there of 10. And so as they do those complements, there's some strategies that might help them along. Strategies like using doubles to support learning their near doubles. So this is a game of concentration where they would turn over a card and find the match to it. So here's where they would find the match of 6 plus 6 is 12. And then now they have to think about 7 plus 6. So because they've just turned this over, it's easy for them to think about what is the extending of those sums and differences to solve other equations. So if they know 6 plus 6, well, 7 plus 6 is just one more than that. And so games like this, which is a variation of kind of concentration, help them develop some of those skills in a fun way. Another way to help develop a strategy and fluency together is developing a game. So yes, they are adding and subtracting to 20 on this game, but they also have to think about strategy because the object is to get 4 in a row. So let's take, for example, if the student turns over the card 9 plus 5, it's just a line master, they're cut up. Obviously, if it's at home and there's no printing, they could easily make these cards at home just by replicating it. Where might that student put their little mark? So they might put it there. So the second student goes, where might that student go? They can put it on any 14, but if they're played the game a few times, they want to put it close to kind of block their partner. So here's an example of what the first partner might get. And of course, they're going to try to get 4 in a row. They're putting it close. Where might this one put it? Did you think there? How about this one? So one after the other, they're blocking each other. So if they pick this one, where might that red one go? They can put it way off, but as they get playing, they realize, if I put it there, it actually blocks it. And so it gives them many, many opportunities to really think about that idea of fluently adding and subtracting with quantities to 20. And when we think about differentiation, there's cards on the back of the card or online. There's on the right, there's 3 in a line. So it's smaller numbers, easier to manage for some students. And there's also line masters that for combined grades extension that lead them up into further numbers. And so it's just as simple as making a simple new game board, and those questions are there for them. So again, supporting differentiation within a grade and also with combined grades, these activities are great for. So now we're moving up, they're fluently adding and subtracting. And so how might students use estimation to support that idea of reasonableness? And we know that sometimes when children estimate, they just want to be right. But when we help them understand it's about supporting whether their answer is going to be reasonable, they start thinking about some strategies. And so how might a student estimate what 48 plus 37 is? And what strategy might that student use to get there?
We see a lot of rounding up to a friendly number or to the whole, which is just exactly what Kim did.
Would some of your students maybe do something to that? How else might they estimate that number?
Tanya says they might break it down into groups of 10 or 20, or they might even go further and think rounding one number but not the other. That might get them closer to their answer.
This is great. You know, because someone might have thought of one, but might not have thought about some of the others. That's great. Wow, lots of different ways of thinking about this, of breaking the numbers in different ways. So some of you might have thought about adding on a big number and using a number line and then adding on the ones. There was another one in the chat pod that really kind of talked about using 48. They're adding 30, then they're going to add the ones and add them together so that they come to 85. When they start really figuring it out, they might break them in those tens and ones. That was another suggestion in the chat pod. So they break the 40 into 40 and 8, and the 30 into 30 and 7. They add the big numbers tens, then they add the ones, and they're able to come to that number in a fairly easy way. Or this was one where someone suggested it, where they add on to one and take one off of the other to come up to more friendly numbers of 50 and 35 and adding it on. And some might already be at a point where they understand these strategies and they are most efficient with quickly doing an algorithm because they understand breaking of tens and ones. They understand going to friendly numbers. They understand already jumps of 10, and they have moved into really fluent use of the algorithm. And so when we get up into this level, this is where students develop really efficient mental strategies and algorithms to solve equations with multi-digit numbers. And so the estimates and the sums and the differences they're able to do in these multi-digit numbers because they have both the strategies and the algorithms to do it. And so when we take a look at just this one big idea, it's a lot still students are moving through. And so as they start in kindergarten with fluently adding and subtracting to 5, through the ideas in the book, The Warm Cozy Nest, they're able to really play out in a very playful way of what that looks like. They move into fluently adding and subtracting to 10 through games and little books, and then moving on. The green ones are grade 2 into that idea of really developing efficient mental strategies. And as they get into grade 3, really fluently recalling those complements to 100, similarly that they did to 5 and 10 and 20. And so these activities are all available for you in a variety of places. So this we've made available is the Pearson Little Books for kindergarten to grade 3. Every week we've provided 2 Mathology little books, and they will stay up there. And they have the read and listen to story, and I'll show you online in a minute. And so you can just click, it reads it to them. There's an online activity, and there's a letter that parents can look at and give real parent home activities. You don't have to adapt them. They are meant to take place and read by and with parents. So we're going to take a look at some of those activities and just do a quick walkthrough of Mathology.ca and where you can find it. And so the online tool really is a searching, a planning, a teaching, assessing, and tracking, and a professional learning tool. Oh, I'm going to actually come out of here now, if I can do that. Sometimes it takes a minute for my computer to register here to actually change what's on the screen. And then flip back to this, which I'm just going to go here. Sometimes the tags won't show up. So there is a free subscription available until the end of June. If you already have Mathology.ca, whether through the free subscription or you're actually using it, if you can just type yes in the chat pod, that would be great. And so this is the page that you come into, and you just quickly sign in, and here's your home page.
Kim, just a moment,
Yep.
We can't see your Mathology slide yet, or your Mathology screen yet.
Oh, let me do it here, see if I can. I don't know why it's switching. You know what it's doing? It's switching desktops. So I don't know how to get it to stay into this desktop. I don't know why it's doing that on me. Because as soon as I go to, it's flipping back and forth all the time. So you don't see that right now.
Nope, not right at the moment.
Okay, it's showing that, let me just do a new share. Here we go.
There we go. That's good.
Okay, it's
Perfect.
a new share. Great. So here's your home page. And there's a little link up at the top, little blue one. If you click that, that will bring you directly to the page that has all the little books available currently for parents. And you can use them as teachers too. And that's kindergarten to grade 3. And as we said, 2 new books will come up every day, and they just click that on. There's the warm, cozy nest, and then there's the book that's there. So that is really for parents. And as teachers, you can use that too. Oh, I think I'm going out too far here. So we said it's a searching tool. You can search by keywords. So if I just do adding, I come up with 78 results. So let's say I'm in grade 1. I just want to get an activity, and I just wanted a number. Oh, then that settles it down a little bit to 12. And so any adding, there's all my activities that are listed there. So quick search by any keyword gets you there. The other way to get there is by curriculum. And right now I have the Ontario curriculum because I'm in Ontario, but wherever you are, when you click curriculum, your curriculum will come up. And so this is overall expectations in Ontario. And then underneath it are specific expectations. So if I go there, I've got 10 results for adding and subtracting in grade 1 that I can choose from. So it's an easy way to choose things. The other way to do it is to quickly have it just pinned at the front. So right now we have Dan's Doggy Daycare pinned. And so when we look at the what's available, it talks about the book, it talks about the math focus, it gives the curriculum expectation, and here this is Ontario, but yours will pop up with whatever province you're in. And it gives where it is on the learning progression in terms of the big ideas. And so it really helps me situate where the math is, and it gives me some details. It gives me some ideas of the types of things I might want to talk about, and it gives some line masters that might be helpful. So when we think about the inside outside story mat, kind of sideways there, you don't see it up, but we've got the inside playroom and the outside playroom that can be used, and all the 10 frames. Let's see, 10 frame is there. So there's lots of different line masters that can be used for use. I'm having a little bit of problem here because the screen is taking my tags away here. So there we go. So there's little books. And when we think about the activities, we've got one pinned here, operational fluency. So this is a grade 2 lesson. And again, the structure is the same. It talks about the lesson, it gives the curriculum expectations, the processes and competencies, and again, where it lies on the learning progression. And when we looked at this activity, it was about developing efficient mental strategies and algorithms to solve equations with multi-digit numbers. And so when we look at the details, it gives me an idea as a teacher of things I might want to do to have a little minds on before the students actually, work in partners or work on the bulk of it. It gives me an idea of what I want to do with the students, ideas to differentiate. I know I'm scrolling a little bit here, but it gives me ideas of really what I want for the consolidation and what to look for the students, and some probing questions. So when I'm planning, this gives me everything I need to think about before I'm actually working with the students. And then it gives me on the back of the card, we say, because on the print version, this is on the back of the teacher card, it gives me some ideas of that learning progression, only more fully expanded. So students would move from the left to the right. And here we have two ideas, adding, subtracting, and estimating sums for this activity. And then it gives me some examples of a student, or the idea of all the resources are up here and ready to be used. So I'm just going to go quickly to related resources. So we're still on the same activity, and this gives me some mini lessons. So let's say some children need a little bit more work, and this is where they need work. They need more work with estimating. Here's a quick little lesson that I might want to do with a small group of students. Or this might be something you might want to use to adapt to work with a small group of students currently in today's learning world. And it also gives extensions for those that already understand this concept. Where might they go for some further learning for that? And so we've got some mini lessons that are there. We have possible misconceptions, and then we've got, after the lesson, some next steps and next steps at home. So here's some, again, some just nice home activities that are easy to understand and easy to transfer to the classroom, to the home in today's world, that are just here for you as part of the lesson. So we have searching and teaching. And when we think about planning, I can go here. We have, ignore the first part as I scroll through that. When you come in, you will see by just clicking along the top here, the part that says plan, you have access to all these sample plans in grade 1 and all these sample plans in grade 2. And basically, they follow different pathways. Like some will start with number sense in September, some start with geometry. It depends where you want to start. And we've now labeled one of them purposeful practice, or you might see foundational skills. We haven't quite landed on one word for it. But if you click the purposeful practice or foundational skills, it's a short version of where students might find some key learnings. And so we're, into March of a school year. So what we've done is we've collected some of the activities that the students might have, some of the math ideas that they might have done previous in the year. So these are things that are helpful to practice, and we've picked things that are really foundational skills for the next year in terms of mathematics. So we have it here. It might shift a bit in the next couple of days because we're really trying to fine tune it. But you can see how in the first one, composing and decomposing, we've got the book Paddling the River. And so you can go to this little link up here and go to Paddling the River. And that way the students have access to the same book that you're using, or the same activities that you're using. And then there's some ideas for cards that are there and activities that are there. And so when we're looking at planning, this is just a nice way to go. You can always make your own plans, but these are just there for you to use right as is. And when we're looking at the plan, when you use this sample plan, it's just simply use it. Now it's mine. Now I can move these components around if I want. I can move that later. I can move it back. I can take off any activities I don't want. I can add in non-mathology lessons just by typing in, like plugging in a URL there. I sometimes put like Mathies in there and a few other like online games that I can click to quickly. I can add in any other activities that I want from my bank over here. So there's lots of things with planning that are really helpful. If I have other teachers that I know that use Mathology.ca, I can share it. I can export it to a document. And even I can click on and see what has been covered in my plan and what's not been covered in my plan. So it really helps me think about the curriculum at the same time. So, you know, searching, teaching, planning, there is an assessment tool that's here. I'm just going to quickly click it and you can take a look at that when you have some time. You can look at a class view and sometimes it will load up. There we go. And it gives you lots of different things to take a look at that in general, you know, where my students might need some more work because it's a little bit red, and where they might be on track here. And if I want to take, you just click buttons. And this is a similar version to the back of the card. And so we can just drag and drop students to wherever we saw their work. So this is a great way to just collect and track where they're at. And so the last thing I'm going to show you is I will go back to our operational fluency and just take a look on the right hand side. There's some professional learning, 2 types of videos. One is just a learning highlight where you can find some ideas on the student thinking. So I'm just going to play that now for you. It's about 1 minute.
Let's explore how we might use mental math strategies to estimate sums and differences and to solve number sentences with greater numbers. Do students see how the known doubles to 10 can be extended to greater numbers? For example, knowing that double 3 is 6 helps us know that double 30 is 60. Some students may have mastered the make 10 strategy with numbers to 10, but have difficulty extending this strategy to numbers that are greater than 10. For example, 19 plus 23 could be solved mentally by taking 1 away from 23 and giving it to 19 to make 20, then adding 20 to 22 to get 42. Encourage students to use their estimates to help them see whether their answers are reasonable. For example, since 19 is close to 20 and 23 is also close to 20, our estimate is 20 plus 20 or 40. The answer 42 is reasonable because 42 is very close to 40. For those students who require additional support on decomposing 10, refer to Intervention Activity 13.
So each activity card has one of those videos, and the video below it is a learning connections video that really highlights that learning progression from K to 3. So we see that we've been able to take a look at this, as you see my messy second desktop that's there. So take that out and take that out. So Miranda, can you see the PowerPoint again?
Yep, I can see it now.
Okay.
And just a heads up, we are at 4:45. We should be done very shortly.
Just a couple of minutes. So I see you have been asking your questions as you go along. So you could see that we've shown you that top layer of the Mathology little books and the activity kits and how it all fits in Mathology.ca. And underneath that layer are professional learning resources, the learning progression, the research, and the implementation support, of which these webinars are part of it. And coming soon is grade 3, coming August 2020. And it has all the same ideas, and the teacher activities and the teacher resources are housed in Mathology.ca. Has the little books, it has student-facing student cards, and it has math mats, which are wipeable, wipeable, I guess that's what you call them, erasable, laminated cards that students can use over and over and over again to show some of their math thinking. And so here's another view of those activities that are coming soon for grade 3. And so quick slide on the actual pricing of the subscription, and there's bundle pricing available for the print resources along with the activity cards. So you can find the free registration here at Mathology, Pearson Mathology.ca, and you get access to all the resources we've just shown on Mathology.ca. And when you click into Mathology.ca, that blue top above gives you access to the little books. It also gives you access to the Zoom meeting that I hold every day from 11 to 12. So once you start using it, if you have questions, just pop in there and I can answer any of your questions. At Pearson Mathology.ca, there's also all the correlations in print. So if you want to take a look at that, it's a PDF, and sometimes it's helpful just seeing it in one piece. And just some quick guidelines on the sharing of Mathology.ca. I think there might have been a couple questions in the chat pod. But again, it's that idea that you use only what you need and only for now, and you send it to students in a way that is secure and logged in. And so you have this type of access only till the end of June, at which time you will need to delete anything that you have saved at that time. And so this is the Pearson Canada at Home, where you can send that link home for your parents, and they have access to all those little books. And we're just about wrapping up. We've got 1 or 2 more slides, but since there's a lot of you on here, it's really helpful to have your feedback, and especially about what content areas you might want to see next. We weren't able to put a poll up, but either in the feedback form that Miranda will put in the chat pod in a minute.
Just did it.
Perfect. Miranda will put in the chat pod. You can put in there some ideas, or as we're wrapping up, if you have a quick idea of something you think, wow, I would really like a webinar on this content area or that content area or this focus or that focus, just type that into the chat pod and we can collect it there too. It's always helpful to know what most people feel is helpful to them, and we can hold them that way. And so just to wrap up, if you want more information, these are your sales reps. That is really your first line of support. And so take a screenshot or just quickly jot down who your contact is, and they can help funnel your questions and anything else that you want. But we do appreciate your feedback. And so just by clicking on the survey gizmo, it's about 2 minutes. It will take you to actually fill out the survey. And that will help future teachers that come on and giving them a better experience. So we really appreciate your support. So thank you for spending some time with us this afternoon, early afternoon for some and later afternoon for some. And we do have a leadership webinar coming up. And then based on your feedback, we will be posting some more webinars for later April and May, depending on what you need. But again, thank you, Pat, on behalf of Pearson, thank you so much for coming out, sharing your ideas. And we hope you have a lot of fun with your students with the resources. We didn't put it here. We have a Twitter handle, just #Mathology or #MathIsFun. if there's anything that you want to share on Twitter, that would be great too. So thanks and have a great night.